trying to be super contentious.
Let's see if it works. Oh, look, it works.
Sorry.
It's all right. All right, so at least at least we're able to get it to work again. Sorry about that, folks. That was had to do some tech issues. Kind of unusual, but you know, we got there in the end. Let's see. I am still sick. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling actually pretty well. Don't have any complaints.
My guest today is Lilith,
Heyo.
and their pronouns are they them. Sorry, I'm still sick. And they will be joining us for the majority of the stream, I think, or until they get tired.
Right.
Uh
Oh,
my
hopefully pretty good.
Yeah, might also this is going to be I mean this is going to be a stream. There's going to be uh some significant segments here. Got a lot that we want to go over and talk about. I've been ill like the entire last week. Hopefully I am like getting over that pretty soon. Going to just set up monitoring in the background so I can see the YouTube chat and see what's going on YouTube. Might have another guest uh, if they decide to join us or not, but if they do, I will adjust things. Then I'll go ahead and add another like text box with her name and stuff on it. Um, Actually, I could also like add your pronouns right there.
Yeah.
Done. And then I'll just size it and make it a little bit smaller. How's that? I think that looks good. Just stick you right above my Zoe Vexed logo over there. All right. So first and foremost, let's just get into it. You know, thank you for joining me, and if our other guest decides to hop in here, I'll add stuff for them. Then I want to talk about Israel and the genocide that's been going on in Gaza, because I've had two separate conversations. Like this just kind of organically happened over the last couple days. Last night I was in a server, and someone who I've thought generally had some decent opinions was essentially trying to say that they were struggling to communicate with people that were like Israeli citizens or IDF, some people that supported what was going on over there, and they were having difficulty essentially kind of debating or arguing against them. They felt it was good to reach out and have those conversations. And the fact that there are people that are still defending this just frustrated me to no end. And then this morning I woke up and I'm checking my social media, and what do I find in my social media? In a trans group of all groups, a trans support group in Facebook. Somebody was complaining that they got blocked by a friend of theirs because they made a post that said that as a Jewish person, they support their homeland of Israel, and that it was anti-Semitic that they were being blocked by these other people. And I just want to talk about this. I have to rant about this because I cannot wrap my head around what logical loops you would have to do to like justify this position to yourself. This would be like, just imagine for a second that with everything going on in the world, that someone comes along and they say that they support Russia right now. They say, well, as a Russian, I support Russia. I think it's within reason to ask that person, well, what do you think about what's going on in Ukraine? That doesn't mean that you want to ethnically kill every single Russian on the planet. That doesn't mean you're Russian phobic. That means that you're asking a reasonable question given the stance of their country and what they are currently doing in their administration and leadership. And what I keep seeing is people acting like if I say, if somebody tells me that they are pro-Russia or they love Russia, they love their country, and I ask them, like, well, wait a minute, what do you think about what's going on in Ukraine? That means, like, if I have a Russian neighbor, I must dislike that neighbor or I must hate that neighbor. That is absolutely ludicrous. I don't think that we would, I think that type of reasoning is just silly. Like, obviously, you're asking because of what's going on over there. And if my neighbor was like, oh no, I don't support what's going on in with Ukraine, I would just be like, oh no, okay, that's cool. I'm not going to just assume that because they're like proud of being Russian or something like that, that must mean by default that they are genocidal or something like that. But it warrants the question because of what is going on. Just like if somebody hears that you're from America, I think it would, and you say something like, if you're talking to an international group, say online, and you say something like, oh, I'm very proud of being American. I think it warrants some questions about, like, well, what do you think about what's going on with Trump and the Caribbean? What did you think about what happened in Venezuela? What do you think about this nationalist rhetoric coming from the White House or ICE? These are reasonable questions to ask someone because of what's going on in our country. And I don't think asking questions about that or seeing, like, what do you think about the Trump administration? Obviously, I can say that I don't support the Trump administration, and I think that the people that have been bombing those boats should be held accountable in a criminal court. That does not mean that I hate all Americans or I want innocent American people to be killed. But then when it comes to Israel, if you say something like, I don't support the government of Israel, I don't support Netanyahu, I think that Netanyahu and every single person that has pulled a trigger or dropped a bomb on innocent civilians should be prosecuted. That's not anti-Jew. Like, that doesn't mean that I don't like my Jewish neighbors or that I'm holding all Jews accountable for this. But I feel like when people frame questions like that, like, oh, why am I being blocked for saying this, when they cannot stand to be questioned about it, like, why would you question me about Gaza if I say I support Israel? I think it's obvious why people are questioning you about it. What do you think, Lilith?
Hold on a moment.
All right, while you take your moment, I'll continue my rant. Another similar thing, I'm from the South in America, and for those of you that are not from the United States, the South over here, a little over, like, 150 years ago, is like the late 1800s, there was a massive civil war over here fought over slavery, and the idea that some people thought it was fine to preserve that way of life, that they wanted to be able to hold on to their slaves. I feel like when somebody says that they are a proud Southerner, that might mean that they just enjoy the culture of the South currently. Like, they're proud of their family, or they're proud of their culture and food or something like that. Like, maybe they're from Louisiana and they're proud of Louisiana culture, or Alabama and they're proud of whatever family lineage they have for whatever reason. But the moment that they say that they are very proud of the South, especially if they have a Confederate flag or they mention anything like to do historically, I feel like it's a fair question to ask them, like, well, what did you think about the Civil War? Like, because there's been this long perpetuated myth about the South for this lost cause fight that they had, as if, reframing the Confederacy, reframing this like as what is essentially like a slavers revolt against the United States government, framing it as if they were just trying to preserve their way of life and they were noble gentlemen going to war, fighting an honorable cause. That is the this lost cause myth about the Confederacy.
Yeah, I mean,
That
that was because they had that whole, the whole thing of, like, the war of northern aggression, and not like they didn't like to call it the Civil War afterwards because, their, heritage is Southern, and so they have to, they're proud of their Southern heritage. They don't wanna be listed as, like, the pro-slavery side,
Right.
you know?
And there's nothing wrong with the idea of like, let's say you grew up in the South and you enjoy Southern cooking and that type of thing. I don't think there's an issue with saying proud of my culture, like currently, especially if you're from an area where there's like a hodgepodge cultural mix, like in Atlanta or something like that. I could see people saying like, they love where they grew up, or they love the communities that they grew up in. Like that makes sense. But once we start talking historically, like remember the South wasn't even fully desegregated until the late 60s, early 70s. All right, that wasn't the Civil War. That went all the way up until the 1970s. So I feel like whenever people start talking about like being proud of like Southern culture, like it's reasonable to ask them like, well, wait, what do you mean exactly? Because of the idea that of this lost cause, like you said, because of the idea of the war of northern aggression and that type of thing. But if
Right.
we, sorry, go ahead.
I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, but if we flip it and you say, well, I think what Israel has done is terrible. Like you can look at pictures of Gaza, you can look at what has happened. They have sniped children directly, like lots of dead children from sniper fire. That is not accidental. That is inhumane. That is war crimes. You can see the absolute utter destruction that they've rained upon these cities. We've seen them starving people out. We saw them telling people to go to like Rafah, and then they would bomb Rafah. We saw them bombing Doctors Without Borders. We specifically targeting them after they knew that they were going to be there to try to bring food to these people. We've seen them block aid over and over. We've seen IDF soldiers filming and mocking civilians that they've killed. We know that the largest amount of population that they've killed has been innocent women and children during these strikes. But that's the government of Israel. That's Bibi Netanyahu. That's all of his goons that have done this. And I would say that every single one of them that pulled those triggers or dropped those bombs, I don't want to hear no just following orders, right? That's The Hague. They should stand at a criminal international courts. Like other countries should have gotten involved and stopped this already. And that's not me being anti-Jewish. That's me being anti-genocide. I don't care if it's Russia invading Ukraine, if it was the Confederacy in the South, or if it is Israel. If there was like if there was a country like Translovakia or something like that, and the majority of people in Translovakia are all trans people, and they were murdering their neighbors in the same way that Israel is doing, I would say, hey, those trans people over there, that trans government is genocidal, and that they are absolutely slaughtering people. I think it is silly to pretend that you cannot condemn Israel, that you cannot question what Israel is doing without being labeled anti-Semitic. And just for the record, only the left really cares about being labeled as like anti-Semitic and stuff like that. The right wingers wear that shit proud. Like you can just look at conservatives, and there's a giant contingent. It's why Ben Shapiro has like fallen off so hard. There are a lot of anti-Jewish people in general on the conservative side. Candace Owens broke away from the Daily Wire because she's peddling this conspiracy theory about Jewish people. And like I recognize that the suffering of within the history of these people, and what was done to Jewish people is not something that should have happened throughout history. I can easily condemn that as well. But there's no hypocrisy in saying that I condemn the historical atrocities that were done to Jewish people, especially during World War II. However, I condemn the current government of Israel for what it is doing, for the genocide that it has perpetrated. We can do both of those things. It's not like an either or thing. And just because you condemn a government for what it's doing and the atrocities that's committing, that does not mean that you are targeting that ethnicity of that people. I don't hate all Russians when I say that I think we need to fight Russia in Ukraine. I think that if Putin tries to push further into Europe, we need to fight him there as well. He needs to be stopped. That doesn't mean that I hate the ethnic groups that make up Russians. That means that I don't like the war of aggression that Russia is fighting, and I don't like the genocide that Israel is perpetuating, just like I don't like the attacks on innocent people that the United States government is carrying out, like top down.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of awful things over here in America. I think what was it that I know you had mentioned the face it was a Facebook post, right?
Yeah, the Facebook group post this morning is what like made me decide to talk about this tonight, just because, it was like I got into a debate last night about on Israel, and I was still kind of like annoyed about that debate. And then this morning I saw this Facebook group, and it was a trans support group, and it was somebody saying that as a Jewish woman, it upsets me that when I say I support my homeland of Israel, like I get blocked by people.
Yeah, I think it was like the way that they had actually said it was like uh I say that, what was it that she said? She said that she's every time says that she's in support of Israel.
Yeah, that she ends up getting blocked. And by the way, I went and looked at the comments on that post. Every single person that basically asked her about the genocide or said, well, there's kind of a genocide going on, she was down there trying to debate them in the comments about genocide, or calling them anti-Semitic and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, of course, that's what's actually getting you blocked. It's not that you are, like you support Israel's existence. I don't think like anyone is going to say that Israel doesn't have a right to exist.
Yeah, I think it's the nuance. It's like, oh well, if you switched it around and you're like, well, every time I say I'm in, because when you say in support of X nation, when you say that I support X nation, that's not like I am proud to be, American or whatever, or that I have pride in my country. You're literally saying that I support whatever they are currently doing at the time. And it's different. Like, that's a different, idea. Like, it's a whole different idea. Because if you say, "Well, I'm in support of," "I'm Russian and I'm in support of Russia," that means that you're in support of what Russia is doing right now to Ukraine. That's why it's like you can be proud to be an American, but if you're like, "Well, I'm in support of America because I'm an American," well, then you're supporting all of the stuff that all the crappy things that America is doing right now, which is awful.
Right. Give me 1 second. I have to cough. I'm sorry. I am still very sick. I agree entirely. Like you don't have to support like every single thing that America does just to be like patriotic, or to say that like, well, I'm proud to be an American, or whatever. But at this point in time, people are going to ask you if you support what like the government is currently doing, and that's a reasonable thing for them to ask. However, let's take a look at this. All right. So I'm going to switch the screen. You can see this right here. This is Pew Research. And this is basically just asking people on their opinion whether they support what's going on with the Israeli military response against Hamas. Now, keep in mind, this is from last year. It's from May 30th, 2024 is when this poll came out. And this was asked, they're asking Israeli citizens. So now we're talking about people in Israel, their views on the military response to Hamas. I just want to point this chart right here. You see that? Okay, so this says percentage of who say the military response against Hamas in Gaza. So this is just asking them broadly, do they support the military response? 39% said been about right. Not gone far enough is 34%. Gone too far is 19%. 7% said that they didn't know, and 1% refused. So now we're talking, in general, majority of citizens here. 39 is say that they've done about right, which I would call is the genocide. They're saying the genocide is about right. And then 34% says that they need to go further than the genocide that they've already been carrying out. So we're looking at around 73% of that population. And it's saying that it's fine what they've done in Gaza and what they've done to the Palestinian people. That's why I get so mad about this. Because whenever we're talking about, like, this is flat out a genocide, the general public within Israel supports what the IDF has done. They support the genocide. That's why it is worthwhile to ask them to clarify their position. Because if we know that the majority of their population, 3/4 of their population, supports what has been done, then it is a reasonable question to ask them what is their position on this. Because maybe they're in the 19% that say that they've gone too far. But the fact that majority of them are saying that this genocide is fine, it blows my mind. I don't understand how they can support this. That's why it is fair to ask them what their position is on the genocide, because so many of them support it, just general public. Now, if you flip it around, you look at America and you say, like, look at like what's going on in America with, like, invading Venezuela, bombing those boats and stuff like that. You do not see 75% of the population approving of it. You would only see like 75%, let's say, of Republicans supporting it. And I don't even know if 75% would support it. But staying on Israel, here's an article from Al Jazeera. And this is from August of last year. Half of U.S. voters believe Israel committing genocide in Gaza. Okay, poll says. So 6 in 10 U.S. voters also oppose Washington sending more military aid to Israel, and this is a Quinnipiac poll. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just showing the share of U.S. Voters who believe genocide is taking place includes 77% of Democrats, 51% of independents. All right. So a large majority of Republicans, 64%, do not think that Israel is committing genocide. All right. And that's just destruction right there of the Gaza Strip that you can see in that photo. I don't know how you reach these people via debate. I don't know why you would say, you know what we need? We need to just debate these people. The videos are out there. The photos are out there. We have doctors coming back and saying this. We even have the IDF releasing information saying that the vast majority of people that they killed were civilians. And we still end up having Republicans, 64%, do not think that Israel is committing genocide. We just got information that 2,700 families, 2,700 familial bloodlines were wiped out during the Israel-Hamas war. If you don't even call it a war, right? And every time you talk about this, people just want to say, oh, well, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? And they'll say, well, it's a complicated question because Hamas was their government before the war, and Hamas has been their government since the war. At the end of the day, we can say, I condemn the terrorists that perpetrated October 7th. Easy, easy peasy. I condemn that. They should not be killing innocent people. They should not be abducting innocent people. They should not be SAing anyone. All right, none of that should have been happening to anyone. I also do not think that Hamas should continue any sort of like terrorist attack. That's it. That's as easy as it is. Now, why is it so difficult for Israel to say, yeah, we shouldn't have been committing genocide. We should not have been sniping children. There were stories, just heartbreaking, of like bombing hospitals, bombing schools. They went into a maternity ward where there were a bunch of babies in incubators, and they cleared out all of the nurses and medical personnel. This was early on in the conflict. And they said, oh, don't worry, we're going to send people back here to take care of this. And they let those babies in those incubators starve to death and die. I don't know how anyone can look at that with a straight face and say that's not genocide, that those aren't innocent civilians. It's literal babies and incubators. What is more inhumane than that? Like, it almost sounds like cartoon world villain behavior. Straight up sniping children. You know, I cannot tolerate this narrative that, oh, this isn't a genocide. We have to tap dance and play around because we don't want to offend the ethnicity of these people. Fuck their ethnicity. It doesn't matter who's doing this. It wouldn't matter, again, if they're Russians, if they're Americans. If this was trans people doing this, I'd be like, I'd condemn them too. That's fucked up. You shouldn't be killing innocent people. And I know I got worked up and I went on a tirade here. It's just, I've kept seeing these narratives over and over and over. And it's difficult to talk to people about this subject without them getting very defensive or without them trying to spin around like they just throw anti-Semitism out there as if it's like a shield that protects them from anything. And I know that for a lot of Jewish people that have also protested this and that are also going out there and fighting against this, right? We've seen rabbis getting attacked and arrested, arguing against this. All right, it's very clear and obvious that there are plenty of Jewish people that do not support this. But we see right now 64% of Republicans support what they're doing. This is clearly not just a Jewish problem. We have conservative Americans and the majority of Republicans supporting this, right? That's the second largest party in the United States. This is clearly an issue that we're like, the world is having an ethical crisis at the moment. All right. And we are, as a species, failing to meet this bar. We're failing to stop genocides. We're failing each other, and our countries are going to suffer for it. The people going to war are going to suffer being traumatized. A huge majority of people are going to end up being murdered for this stuff. And for what? Vengeance over some stupid land and borders? It's difficult to not get disheartened looking at this stuff, but I can tell you right now that debating them on this is not going to solve these issues. There needs to be international intervention. The UN already should have been involved in this. We already should have had peacekeepers going there. The United States should have been involved in settling this and stopping this. We had Biden for 4 years, utter failure on this. He's basically a Zionist himself. It's just, it's a shame that so many people have died. And at the end of the day, we're still having to debate whether it's even a genocide or not. As if people can't tell that starving babies, starving mass amounts of people, bombing innocent people, sniping children, as if we can't tell that that's wrong. I don't know. I don't know how you reform that. Do you have
Well, I
any
mean,
thoughts on that?
part of the problem that you run into is you're having to fight a bunch of propaganda. Israel is really good at pushing. I mean, just like the United States and our social media problems. Well, Israel has their same problems. Israel has um, their own like propaganda, machine in spreading misinformation, downplaying what's going on in Gaza. Also, they put narratives that are pro and anti-Gaza or anti-Hamas. Um, so you have to fight that on the ground too. So and they also have active government like shutdowns of media, any independent media that reports on it.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's something where it feels like this is just it's a failure all around on the international community. Like, something should have been done about this before, and I have no idea why no one has acted on this. It's just ridiculous. And I agree that there's narratives that are being like propagated, trying to show like support the idea that they're like Israel is, a victimized state, and they have no choice but to defend themselves by, fighting these battles and going against Iran and all this other stuff. And like to some extent, if you look back in the 1940s, like yeah, they were attacked by like neighboring countries. Like there's some truth to this, but they're twisting that into justification for everything else that they're doing.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know. Like I know in the South we had a similar thing growing up. I heard lost cause narratives all the time, and uh, it's difficult to be inundated in a culture like that without if you're not a curious person. Like I would hear the lost cause narrative and it's like, oh, it's the war of northern aggression stuff, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, what? Why did we go to war with them? Like why did the North aggress on us and stuff like that? And it's like I wanted to know the history behind it. And then
Yeah.
we end up finding out that uh, give me one second. I got to answer a question. Sorry, I had to deal with some permissions issues there. But I
Yeah.
remember it wasn't until like I go and I start reading things like the like Stonewall Jackson's the Cornerstone speech. That's when it becomes very abundantly clear exactly what is going on. Whenever it's like, oh, this was actually about slavery. That's what's happening. Like they literally went to war, and it was about like slaves. Because I remember growing up, the part of the lost cause narrative, I kept getting told all the time, oh, it's not about slavery. It's not about slavery. Like it was about them defending their way of life or something like that. And it's like, nope. Read the Cornerstone speech, and you'll see in that speech the South, the president of the Confederacy, talking about it is their God-given right to own slaves, and that's why they're going to war. They explicitly state it. So for all the Southerners that are like, oh, the Civil War wasn't really about slaves, and like you're being reductionist, nope, go read the Cornerstone speech, and you'll see it is right there, black and white. And that is why they went to war. And I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to Israel, they'll say, well, you can't understand the complicated history unless you go and you read the last 100 years of history. It's not that complicated. You can see what happened after World War II when they established Israel as a country. And yeah, there's been like wars. There was the Nakba after that. And I would say like the Nakba just never ended. And Israel has steadily encroached on Palestinian territory ever since then and just trimmed it off every single chance that they get. So at the end of the day, you can take it within a historical context, and we can look at contemporary accounts of what's going on. It is a genocide. And I feel like that kind of wraps
Yeah.
up my thoughts on Israel, unless you have something else you want to add.
Oh, just that, is like any country, you have the country, which is the government. You have the government, and then you have the people. They are two separate entities. You have America, and then like the United States, and you have the United States citizens. And just because you have a government that does horrible things like what the United States is doing right now, not only to its own people, but to people abroad, and just the world in general. Um, it's not the majority of the citizens who are like doing these things. It's literally the people who are in power. So, yeah, I feel like a lot of people when you're younger, especially with the way that United States has pushed our, nationalistic propaganda when like you're like I'm sure you remember when you were little, you sang a lot of like America songs and the whitewashing of our history and what really happened. How it was like, it was happy colonization. We didn't really like, steal and rape and murder for people's land. That wasn't what we did. It was like a, communal thing. They just gave us things. And then like having all that the nationalistic pride. And then as you grow up, like it's easier. It's very simple to like anybody who we are warring with is the enemy. And so all the people are just generally bad. Like this, you know, you paint people with like a broad brush. Everybody in Russia is bad. Like we had we had the Cold War where we had McCarthyism where everybody was a freaking communist. And then that it was easy. It's easy. You don't have to use your brain. Oh, well, you're Russian, so you're obviously bad. You're obviously a commie, you know. And so there are people that do think that way. They think very black and white. Oh, well, you're part of X group, so you have to be bad. Even though a group is not a monolith.
Oh yeah, I 100%. And it's like uh the idea that you would try and treat people like a monolith is frustrating in general, but you see this all the time. Like conservatives will say, oh, but trans people, or ostensibly the left or whatever, y'all all think the exact same way, y'all all have the same talking points. Like, did you ever see that there was like data that came out like a year or two ago, and it showed like kind of like leftists all like having like aggregate beliefs on one side, and then on the right it showed it being like larger, and the right was like, see, there's more diversity of beliefs among us, and y'all all believe the exact same thing. But then when you actually like look at the breakdown, it's like the reason why there's more diversity of thought on the right was because the right includes like a lot of conspiracy theories and other things that a lot of that you don't find necessarily in like leftist circles. And it's like, yeah, that chart does not help y'all in the way that you think it does. All you're showing is that the left actually has consistent principles, consistent beliefs, and while the right is more like eclectic. But at the same time, if you go and you atomize some of the beliefs that they have, you can predict a lot of other beliefs that they have by one simple belief. Like if you ask, is Israel committing a genocide, and someone says no, Israel's not committing a genocide, you can make predictions in America what their other political beliefs are. And you can do the same thing with issues on the left. That does not mean that, we're all a monolith. Like there's still diversity of thought. And, I've debated and argued with other people that are on the left, right? I think the left is known, sadly, as for having a lot of infighting and purity testing that we do, whereas people on the right kind of just accept anyone that will, as long as they like hate the right people or they support Trump, they'll just accept anyone. And that's why you see like the Candace Owens types, or what's his name, the who's the gay guy that flipped over, and Candace has been kind of like squabbling with him recently. Do you know him? Dave Rubin. You see the Dave Rubin types, where Dave Rubin is not nearly as accepted in right-wing circles as Candace Owens is. But then when you say, well, what circles is Owens like appealing to? And she's peddling conspiracy theories. Charlie Kirk was a time traveler. That's what she's peddling. She's appealing to the Alex Jones types. So at the end of the day, none of us are a monolith. There is diversity of thought like among us in general, but at the same time, you're going to find like consolidation around certain beliefs. And I think that is what matters more, are those core beliefs and those values.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And then on top of it, you do have a lot of you have the right that will not they will grudgingly accept people. They will say, "Well, you're not quite us, but you're a useful idiot. So we will use you as a vote." They've been doing
Yeah.
that for a very long time. Like, "Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, well, you don't like you look, see, this minority, this specific minority is the one that's to blame for all of your woes." It's like this magic trick that they like to do. They like to show, you know, it's the immigrants. The immigrants are coming in and making the economy bad. Just ignore the mass greed and disparaging, economic split of the wealthy versus, the not wealthy. Just ignore that. It's not corporations. It's not late stage capitalism that's to blame. It's this immigrant who came in and is like working 60 hours a week. It's them. They're the ones that are like to blame for this. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're working their ass off trying to like provide for their family, and it's like, oh, this is the person who you should hate, just because they're the one that's going after your jobs or whatever, and it makes no sense at all for what they're doing.
Right. And they've been doing that for a very long time. I mean, it's the corporations have been doing that for years. It's like if you're not coming after the corporation, if you are, distracted with other things like, your fellow worker, um they can keep raking in all of the benefits and you basically leave you with nothing because it's not them, it's those people that are taking all of your money.
100%. I'm going to change my screen capture to flip over, and then there we go. Go back to full camera, and it looks like our other guest is saying that they are also about ready to come on. So give me 1 second to just add their profile here, and it'll probably end up making the everything a little bit smaller, but that's fine. Let's see.
I like your background. That's cute.
Thanks. Let's bring on more again. It's they, them, and she, they, I believe. Let's see. Are you with us, Morgan?
Yeah.
There we go. Welcome.
Hi. Good to be
Greetings.
here, and I'm sorry for the delay.
No, you're fine. Did you have anything that you wanted to cover, like touch on with the Israel stuff before we move on to some of the other articles?
Um, not not specifically. I but y'all were talking about like the South and like the Civil War, and I feel like the right has been waiting for a long time to like get the next generation so that they can like remove the the cultural awareness that we gained from like World War II, the Civil War, and they can like make the next generation like very much less aware of these things and indoctrinate them into their way of thinking because of their unawareness of these things. Like even not growing up in the South, I find that like a lot of people just it, and like younger generations, especially young men, like don't know about a lot of the things that have happened in history that like were very crucial to like America's history specifically.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like just a huge problem in general with history, right? It's like if people aren't aware, I'm going to put y'all. I'm trying to find somewhere I can put your names. I don't know. I'll go back to the other screen there. That's better. Now I can see it, and I'll put y'all down here so that when we flip back over to the response, the bar will be down there for you as well. So I agree. I mean, one of the issues is, especially when I talk to a lot of like Zoomers and kind of like younger people, a lot of them are just not aware of this history at all. Like, they're not aware of the Cornerstone speech. A lot of them don't have information on what happened during the Civil War because, well, that was so long ago. That doesn't really matter now. It's like, no, the policies, like, for instance, there was like a period of Reformation after the Civil War. And that was supposed to be like purging out a lot of this like white supremacist ideology that, you know, people had in the Confederacy from government. And we failed in that. That the Reformation was not completed. Instead, they ended up taking a lot of the same wealthy landowners and putting them in like governorships or making them mayors and keeping them in power in the South. Because after the end of the Civil War, everyone just wanted the war to end. They all went back up north, and they ended up ceding power back to the people. They ended up leaving a lot of the exact same institutions exactly where it's at. Reformation utterly failed in our country. And because of that, we've now ended up with the same policies that were, you know, like redlining and other policies targeting black people, continue to abuse them and oppress them, segregation, then Jim Crow, all that continued from the late 1860s all the way up until the 1970s. So for 100 years, black people continue to be oppressed in our country. When we get to the 70s and you see desegregation, you end up still seeing a lot of people, like the Southern strategy, for instance, was used, I think, during Nixon's campaign. These are all still white supremacist ideology. It's still white supremacy as policy that was used. And we see it continuing up through until now. We're going to get to one of the stories I have is some text messages. It was an email that was leaked between, what's his name, Bongino, and this a person that he was appointing to a position of leadership that sent him memes and email depicting the Confederacy because he was promoting white people over black people. And this is, you know, this continues to this day to still be a problem because we failed in Reformation. But if people don't know history, then they're not aware that any of that happened. If y'all don't have anything else,
Right.
then I'm going to move on to the next segment, which is going to be we're going to cover some ice stuff. If y'all are ready for that.
I in a minute, just in a minute. I know. How long are you streaming tonight?
However long it takes me to get through all these articles and stuff, I've got like probably like 3 segments left, so probably another couple of hours.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I have time. I just wasn't sure if you're under a time crunch. I mean, even after we had like the Civil Rights Act passed, they continued they continued atrocities for black and brown people. I mean, they still do it now, but I mean, it like right afterwards, I mean, they still had so many things. I mean, so many things happen that they would just like cover up and list it as something else. I mean, we have a long list of propaganda. The war on drugs. I mean, you remember that, like Dare. What did it affect predominantly black and brown people?
Right,
They
and the
weren't
enforcement.
Right. They weren't going after Wall Street and like all of the coke heads there. They weren't caring about those people. They weren't caring about the white people that had drug issues. That wasn't who they were going after.
Right.
Right.
And I genuinely I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's like they were doing all of these things and implementing all of these strategies. And among all of these strategies, they were also targeting education. They were trying to like change the story. And and now it's the the I feel like that was them like planting a seed, and now this generation has like gotten to the point where it's like now they've like been changing the story for long enough that there's like an entire generation that like knows next to nothing about this. Like that it wasn't just that like people just didn't learn about it. It's that like they deliberately as like a point of strategy like messed with education to um try to make what they're doing now more possible.
Well, you also have people that will try and run defense, and they'll say, "Yeah, but what about all the white people like that got caught up in the drug war, and what about all the white bodies that are in prison?" And it's like, look, no one is saying that white people were not impacted by like the drug war or anything else. What we are saying is that people of color were disproportionately impacted, and we can see historically and the mountains of evidence who was intended to be caught up in this, right? And it was like, remember Mayor Bloomberg in New York? He infamously he took a picture of like a black man, and essentially said, when they were doing the stop and frisk laws, like whenever they pass that, like unconstitutionally, I would say, violating the Fourth Amendment, he literally held up a picture of a black person, and he was like, "Oh, you can just fax this picture to all of the police departments in New York. This, this is who you're looking for. Like, these are the people you're looking uh, for the stop and frisk policy." That doesn't mean that no white people ended up being, caught up in stop and frisk stuff, but it was very obvious who was being targeted by that. Just like in Arizona, they passed this law, papers, please. And that, I mean, this is like, the baby incubation of ICE, and they were stopping people in Arizona and demanding to see their their papers, their green card, license, or whatever. And that the vast majority of people like stopped under that law were people of color. They're the ones getting stopped asking for their papers. It wasn't white people, at least not the vast majority of cases. So like, before people come here with their white fragility to say like, "Oh, you're just being mean to white people. What about the white people or whatever?" Like, "Oh, don't worry, you babies. Like, we know that white people are also harmed by some of these policies." All right. No one's saying that white people aren't being harmed by it, but a disproportionate amount of people of color were targeted. And this has gone, from the Civil War through segregation, through redlining, all those policies to modern day. And the reason why it's important to talk about it is because for the same reason why Renee Good was, her murder blew up, but Porter was murdered, and his death just did not get near the same traction or same news. Now, granted, Renee's was also on video, and Porter's was, articles talking about him, firing a firearm in celebration and being shot by an off-duty ICE officer. But we've seen this over and over again, and we've constantly, as a nation, failed to address these injustices, and they've been allowed to fester for so long that now the people that are in power are openly abusing everyone, because you allowed them to set the groundwork with their policies, with their laws, with their tactics. You allowed them for so long to target minority communities, and you didn't protest, and you didn't protest, and you didn't protest. And now that, it's obvious that these ICE Gestapo will kill any of us, whether you're a cishet white man carrying your firearm legally. And if some of those words I just said activated you, you might want to stop and think for a second, from all your bragging about how independently minded conservatives are. Well, those types of words shouldn't trigger you, right? Like, you should be perfectly fine hearing those words because you're allowed to have free thought. So you should hear that, and maybe you should think, should I look into this? Because what happened to Alex Preddy could have happened to literally anyone. Like, Alex could have been actually a conservative and his wife could have been there protesting, and he could have just been standing by just filming to try and keep her safe, then step in front of her when she gets shoved to the ground by ICE. Then he ends up getting beat up by ICE, a firearm that he legally had on him disarmed, and then murdered. That could have been a conservative at the end of the day, because conservative men still typically want to protect their wives, or they'll claim that they want to protect their family or defend people that are like close to them. I just find it sad and pathetic that when we see stuff like this happening, conservatives all of a sudden start wavering on the Second Amendment. They waver on the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and then as soon as it's people of color being harmed, they don't even want to do investigations. Which, by the way, DOJ has said that don't worry, they're not going to have an independent unit investigate what happened to Preddy. They're going to investigate themselves. We can all rest assured that they'll investigate themselves, and they'll let us know if they did anything wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. The problem that we're running into is that there is no like culpability. They're doing whatever they want. Like they've killed multiple people already. Like ICE has killed multiple people, and they don't know at this point, they don't know who any of these people are. They're still out there in Minneapolis, on the streets, still harassing people, still possibly, injuring people, um, because they didn't create, they didn't even list, they didn't collect any evidence as far as I can tell. Like they literally just took everything off, like just a cleanup. They didn't, preserve anything. We don't know who it is that did any of these acts right now. All we have is like cameras of people who were masked.
Oh, 100%. And speaking of ICE people, I want to move into the next segment, which is going to go over like stuff going on with ICE and just kind of catching up to that. I apologize ahead of time. I'm going to try not to get let me full camera for a second. I'm going to try not to get emotional on this, but I'm going to be honest with you. Some of this that we're about to see in just a minute is like pretty hard to watch. I'm going to read a couple of articles just to give you some background information. I would prefer to show you videos. I know a lot of people don't like reading articles, but like you need the background information to see these videos in order for it to like fully make sense. And you can get kind of a full picture. Like, I don't want to just like react to a video and be like, oh, this is terrible. I want to give you like a full contextualization for what's going on. That way, when you see the video, we know like more so of what's going on, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to pull up the next article. And so we have this. First, I'm going to cover two quick articles from Ken Klippenstein. Exclusive ICE's secret watch list of Americans. Sparta, Reaper, and Grapevine track protesters, their friends, plus others. All right, and this is like literally released today. So we have a nice little database, and now you're considered a domestic terrorist. A masked federal agent taunted a protester filming him in Maine last week. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin's response was firm. There is no database of domestic terrorists run by DHS. There's just one problem. She's lying. So we've got two senior officials are telling Ken that there are more than a dozen secret and obscure watch lists that Homeland Security and the FBI are using to track protesters, both anti-ICE and pro-Palestinian, Antifa and others, who are promiscuously labeled domestic terrorists. Well, I guess that because at the beginning of this stream, I laid out why I'm not, pro-Israel, and I laid out why I think what's going on in Gaza is a genocide. So I guess that would make me pro-Palestinian. You know that I'm anti-ICE because I'm just covering factually what they're doing. I guess that would make me a domestic terrorist for even talking about this. So much for your First Amendment. Hopefully you conservatives out there that freak out about the First Amendment will join us to say, that's fucked up. You should have the right to cover this stuff. What are you talking about? So he says that he can reveal for the first time that some of the secret lists and applications go by code names like Blue Key, Grapevine, Hummingbird, Reaper, Sandcastle, Sienna, Slipstream, and Sparta. including the ominous-sounding Hell and Hell C, reports generated by Sparta. Some of these, like Hummingbird, were created to vet and track immigrants, in this case, Afghans seeking to settle in the United States. Slipstream is a classified social media repository. Other tools are used to link people on the streets together, including collecting on friends and families who have nothing to do with any purported lawbreaking. There's practically nothing available that further describes what these watch lists do, how large they are, or what they entail. So we came out of 9/11 with the notion that we would have a single terrorist watch list to eliminate confusion, duplication, and avoid bad communications. But ever since January 6th, not only have we expanded exponentially into purely domestic watch listing, but we've also created a highly secretive and compartmentalized superstructure that few even understand. A DHS attorney intimately familiar with the subject. So I'm not going to read the rest of it. You can check Ken Klippenstein's stuff for the rest of this article. And greetings, Kyle. It's good to see you. Now, as to glad hand with this, ICE is making a list of anyone who films them, right? So the Department of Homeland Security has ordered immigration officials to gather identifying information about anyone filming them and to send that information to Intel, who will do a workup on them. A federal law enforcement official directly involved told Ken. All right, so they're trying to identify them via social media, running their license plates if available, and running a criminal history check. All right, the directive is part of a sweeping nationwide effort by U.S. immigration authorities to identify anyone and everyone trying to film their conduct. This includes not just ICE, but other DHS agencies like Border Patrol as well. Their ultimate goal is to create a list of anti-ICE protesters, which the Trump administration believes are part of an organized network of domestic terrorists. Okay? So I just want to talk for a second about this. The idea that there exists some group of domestic terrorists just because we are anti-ICE is laughable. This is when they said that Antifa was some large organization. And while you might have individual people that identify as anti-fascist, or some small groups in like local communities somewhere that would call themselves Antifa, Antifa is not itself a organization. Now, if you need help with this, that it would be like trying to explain that you can have parents, okay? And you can have parents in households and neighborhoods. And you might have neighborhoods that are parents, but there's no such thing as some organization called like Big Parent that every parent subscribes to and belongs to. Big Parent, it would be a non-existent organization. While there might be neighborhoods of some parents, and there might be some like HOAs and stuff like that throughout some neighborhoods, they are not all part of some conglomerate. And the idea that they're going to pretend that all of us are part of some kind of, anti-ICE, pro whatever organization is just laughable. I mean, like I already touched on before, that everyone knows the purity testing and the infighting that goes on often in leftist circles. I don't know any, I'm not part of any like large group leftist organization. You might say, there are like DSAs and stuff like that, and DSAs have their own little groups, and there some other like socialist group. But at the end of the day, we're not all part of some interconnected network. It's like pretending that trans people under the FBI, which, Kash Patel, this is what you get when you hire a podcaster to run your government organization. They all buy into these conspiracies as if I personally am part of some conspiratorial trans organization. I just have my YouTube channel. The audience I have are just people that willingly choose to listen to what I say or to share my content or my videos. It's just my voice and those that I have on as my guests, which thank you to my guests for being here. At the end of the day, like, I'm not part of it. Are y'all part of some secret group that I should know about? I don't think y'all have membership in Big Trans or something, do you?
It would be news to me.
Right. But, that's what they're trying to sell us on is some conspiracy. Were you saying something, Lilith?
Yeah, I mean, it's about as farcical as saying that, I don't know, uh, wh- white men have their own like secret group,
Yeah, they're called golf clubs. You know.
right?
Well,
You're like, nope. All these white men. They're in this like conspiracy together. It's no. It's like that's. I think that's how some people feel that we think patriarchy is. Like we're saying that that's like it's like that false equivalence. Like we're thinking that the patriarchy is just like this some secret club like the Illuminati, and it's like no, that's not how it works. It's systemic, like uh you know uh rules in play that we have that are not overtly seen, that society just pushes on it as like these are societal norms, not that there's like this secret cabal of white men that they're all a part of, and it's a conspiracy.
I I'm just gonna, the term cabal is like, yikes, Um,
Oh, it is. I'm like out of the what is that? Um, like what's the history of that? Because
it's anti-Semitic.
oh, is it? Is that like a
It's blood
Jewish word?
libel. Yeah, it's anti-Jew
Oh,
stuff essentially.
so
But I know what you mean. You mean a conspiratorial group, essentially. Like you're not
yeah, the mafia. It's like the mafia. It's like a secret mafia, but not mafia.
right. But I mean, I would use another. How about this? Imagine if somebody said, because this might actually reach conservatives, right? Because of what happened with Preddy. Imagine if we said, don't worry, when Democrats get into office, we're going to have organizations tracking gun owners and find out, because we're suspicious that it just so happens that so many of these gun owners are white men, and a lot of them all seem to belong to like local gun clubs, or they go shooting at the same gun ranges and stuff like that. They must all be part of big gun. Like there must be some group involved with like the NRA that all white men belong to. So all white men that also own guns now need to have criminal background checks. We need to start making lists of these people. I think it would be very obvious to conservatives why that would be an issue. Like, do you really want to set that precedent to say like, well, if the government just thinks that you have some belief that they don't like, that you should all be put on watch lists and then investigated. I feel like it's obvious why that's a problem. And, for all of them gloating right now, the sun will set on this administration one day. You need to be very concerned about the precedent that's being set for how much government overreach you're allowing for, okay? I don't think that any of us should be on any sort of list like this. I don't think that right-wing podcasters should be on, watch lists or something, even though we know people like Tim Pool were literally taking money from the Russian government to run propaganda. And several of the larger right-wing influencers were all taking money, like Russian money, to produce propaganda for them. We also know that AIPAC even David Pakman was getting some money out of via like AIPAC and adjacent groups to it. So we know that these countries have influence with podcasters. And for me, while I'm not going to like purity test Pac-Man, I'm going to say like it made me very skeptical all of a sudden of his coverage of Israel. What is he allowed to say? Does he have a leash on him? Was he not allowed to say certain things, to speak out like against Israel? It's concerning. Anytime you have governments exercising influence like over streamers or whatever, all of a sudden you have to call into question the beliefs that they're saying. Like I have no sponsors, no government money, no nothing. I'm just doing this because I want to do it. I think people need the information. But to know that just for covering the things that we covered on, we could get put on a watch list. Okay, I'll show you anti-ICE stuff, okay? You want to see anti-ICE? Let's do anti-ICE. Since they're so worried about this. So this is an article I'm just going to cover real quick. Like I said, this is all going to build one on the other. So we have the prior article of the watch lists and stuff, and all it takes to get put on a watch list is to film these bastards. That's all you have to do. So this is from January 14th, okay? And this is from the American Immigration Council. Immigration detention expansion in Trump's second term. I'm not going to read the article, not the whole thing. I know that people hate that. I'm going to just touch on the highlights. This is from their executive summary, okay? Surges of federal law enforcement officers taken from agencies as varied as the FBI and the IRS have fanned out across the nation to carry out at-large arrests in American communities, which increased by 600% in Trump's first 9 months in office. Targeted enforcement operations have been supplemented by more indiscriminate worksite raids, roving patrols, and collateral arrests. And immigrants dutifully attending court hearings and check-ins have been detained without warning. The result of these changes in arrest practices has been a 2,450% increase in the number of people with no criminal record held in ICE detention on any given day. I want to just repeat that. They have no criminal record. So Trump was like, even as recent as the last couple of days, he's been saying, oh, we got to get the murderers out of there. We got to get the hardened criminals. Well, it turns out that over a 2,000% increase in people that have no criminal history whatsoever. Those are the people getting caught up in this. All right. So with them sending more people to detention centers, fewer people are being permitted to leave them while they fight their cases. On January 6th, Trump ordered that ICE maximize its use of detention. Within weeks, ICE stopped issuing discretionary releases, requiring immigrants held in detention centers to petition immigration judges for release on bond. From January through November 29th, discretionary releases from detention centers fell by 87%. So they are just not letting these people back out. They are capturing them up, throwing them in their little concentration camps, and then holding them there. And for conservatives that think that I'm being hyperbolic about concentration camps, we're going to get there in a second. All right, because I'm so tired of people saying, oh, you're being inflammatory and you are exaggerating when you say something like concentration camp. That's too far, Zoe. That language is too strong. We'll get there. So as of November 2025, for every one person released from ICE detention pending a hearing or after being granted relief, 14.3 people were deported directly from ICE custody, up to a ratio of 1.6 in December. As documented by 3 stories, including this report from people currently or recently held in ICE detention, conditions of confinement have grown significantly worse as detention has expanded. ICE deaths in detention in 2025 were the highest ever for a non-COVID year. And for the rising number of people held in detention, the worsening conditions have led many to simply give up their cases, even if they had viable claims of asylum. So today, detention is at its highest level in history. In July, Congress authorized $45 billion for ICE detention to be spent through fiscal year 2029. This funding comes on top of the already record high $4 billion appropriated for ICE detention in 2025. Annual sum, which is expected to increase in subsequent years. We calculate that with this funding, ICE could potentially acquire enough detention beds to house 135,000 people at any given time, more than 3 times the entire capacity of the system at the time that President Trump took office. Now, pay attention to this part. Private prison companies, as well as state and local governments, are set to cash in on these huge sources of funding. And they've effectively eliminated 3 immigration oversight sub-agencies, and they are prohibiting members of Congress from conducting lawful inspections. The detention system and the abuses endemic to it are opaque, or more opaque than ever before. And the problems are only likelier to grow. Families and adults disappear in detentions in one state and reappear thousands of miles away or in another country following a rapid deportation. While a flood of habeas corpus lawsuits have prevented some injustices, the majority of people do not have the resources or the ability to fight ICE's choice of to detain. We're going to watch some videos in just a minute, and like I said, these videos are going to be hard to watch, so I apologize ahead of time. I'm going to try not to get like teary-eyed. I like the amount of suffering is staggering that's going on here. So there are 3 times the amount of people are now being held in ICE custody compared to the prior administration. So more than 3 times. And they've been building facilities so quickly, like Alligator Alcatraz, it had to get shut down because of the like bleak conditions that it was keeping people in, because it wasn't properly constructed. I want to give y'all a chance to jump in real quick before I move on to the next article. Um, it's going to keep layering on this, on the case that I'm building here for the atrocities that's going on. What do y'all think about this so far?
Um,
I Oh, go ahead, Morgan.
no, go ahead.
I was saying that like I have no notes. We all know the terrible shit that's going on with ICE. Like all of the stuff that they're doing. We've been seeing it. I mean, they don't really put as much as they should on the news. But if you're watching any of the other independent news outlets, you're seeing like stuff that's going on. You're seeing the protests. You're seeing ICE just flagrantly, doing whatever they want, hurting people, hurting protesters. That they've taken so many people, and they were trying to target the worst of the worst, and like I think it was either one third or two thirds of the people that they've taken and are holding or didn't have any criminal record. They're illegally searching houses. They're breaking into businesses without a warrant. I mean, they're just doing whatever they want. And like I think you'll probably deal with that later. But the people that they're using, who they hired for ICE, are just they're like they have criminal records. A lot of
Yeah.
them have their own criminal records. They don't care. They just want a warm body that will do what they want.
Yeah, I don't have anything pulled specific for that, but I know for a fact, like some of the Proud Boys have been identified, and some of the people that were the January 6th rioters that were pardoned by Trump have been identified as a lot of these ICE agents. So if you're wondering, like, where did the Proud Boys go? Like, the Proud Boys don't seem to be doing. No, they're right there. That's them. ICE. They're undertrained. They have no idea what they're doing. They were not qualified and could never get into the military. They could never get into the police force. They are ignorant, and they're so stupid that they had to be given open book tests, and they had to lower the bar for recruitment standards to even get them in there in the first place. And a lot of them had prior convictions, including SA and those types of like sex crimes as well. So when they say like, oh well, ICE is going after the Fredophiles and is going after the Epsteiners, okay, turn that focus inside your organization. Go search people in the White House if you want to find a whole bunch of like Epstein's friends. And Morgan, were you going to say something?
Um, I don't it. I was thinking something similar, and just that like with what we see with ICE, it's not surprising that they're doing this. I don't know. It's just the thing that's most surprising is that a lot of Americans seem to like be surprised by it. Like I'm surprised that the people that are like uh terrorizing like random people in our country are also building like camps to bring those people to so that they can further terrorize them with impunity. Like Why why wouldn't they? That's literally like that's the game plan. That's always been the game plan. Like it, why would we be surprised?
Right. I know I've spoken to you before, and you were saying back then, like, that in time you thought that we were going to find out the sort of abuses that are happening with ICE in those training centers. Brand new ICE training center 20 miles from you, crossing into tribal areas. Oh, Kyle, that's terrible. That really sucks. And I'm sorry to have to show you some of this stuff. I really do. But as predicted before when we had talked about this, what do we find now? So this is an article from the ACLU. It was released literally 2 days ago. Detained immigrants detail physical abuse and inhumane conditions at largest immigration detention center. When I just touch over this. So we talked about Geraldo Lunas Campos, spent months detained at Camp East Montana in El Paso, Texas, before he died in ICE custody. His death has been ruled a homicide after reports that an officer choked him during an altercation. His case has renewed calls to close the remote detention camp, long criticized for dangerous condition and a rising toll of deaths. So they said that these aren't concentration camps. This is some of the stuff that they've been doing, okay? So like Campos, officers beat up Samuel, a detained teenager. So this is a teenager who's using a pseudonym so badly he had to go to the hospital. His right front tooth was broken, and he said one of the officers grabbed my testicles and firmly crushed them, while another forced his fingers deep into my ears. He added that weeks after the beating, the damage to his left ear was so severe that he now has trouble hearing. Samuels is just one of dozens of accounts of abuse from the immigration detention at the site at Fort Bliss military base in El Paso, Texas. These accounts reveal an unfolding humanitarian crisis at the military base, one which may spread across the country as the Trump administration expands detention dangerously, recklessly, and with unprecedented speed. So, human rights organizations, including the ACLU, sent a letter Monday to the U.S. Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement, which is ICE, detailing accounts of violent assaults and sexual abuse by officers. It also reveals details of other forms of intimidation used to pressure detained immigrants into self-deporting or agreeing to removal to third countries where they have no ties. These findings are based on interviews with more than 45 people currently held at Fort Bliss, and the letter includes 16 signed declarations by people detained at the facility. Tragically, Francisco Andres, an immigrant from Guatemala, died of liver and kidney failure after he failed to receive appropriate medical treatment and care at Fort Bliss on December 3rd. I'm not going to read the entire article. I just want to touch on some of this stuff. So, immigrants are housed in tent structures in the extreme El Paso heat. This tent camp, built on a former Japanese internment camp, marked the Trump administration's novel approach to expanding the immigration detention system in its second term. Fort Bliss is the administration's first detention facility at a military base, but not likely the last. With a $1.2 billion price tag, the facility marks a pivotal point in the Trump administration's effort to use the U.S. military, in this case its bases, as a central tool of immigration enforcement. So these are immigrants that are describing alarming conditions. So we've got different pods where people are being kept, and 60 to 70 people report chronic food shortages with meals sufficient for only about 50 individuals. People are forced to ration food, skip meals, or take turns eating. And when food is available, it is often spoiled or partially frozen, causing widespread vomiting, diarrhea, and rapid weight loss. Basic hygiene supplies are scarce. Pods receive only a handful of rolls of toilet paper, and people go days without soap, clean clothing, or access to functioning showers. Detainees describe tents and bathrooms flooded with foul water mixed with urine and feces, creating squalid and unsafe living conditions. Access to medical care is equally alarming. Individuals with serious conditions report going days or weeks without prescribed medication or having medical requests ignored until someone collapses. They are named here using pseudonyms to protect their identities. Josephina, who has diabetes, describes receiving insulin at erratic intervals that cause dangerous spikes and crashes in her blood sugar. Fernando went 15 days without his prescribed blood pressure medication. Others who previously suffered a stroke report blurry vision and other clear warning signs, while officers fail to provide timely care. I want to just touch on this because these are the conditions that these people are being kept in. And when I show you these videos that are just unbelievably inhumane and heartbreaking, it's on Twitter. In some of the comments on the videos, you can see people saying, oh, well, they shouldn't have come here. Well, they brought this on themselves. This is literal torture. These are torture camps, starving people. We already, touched on Japanese internment camps that are being repurposed now, the exact same locations for housing these people. They're being denied medical care. They're not getting food. They're being kept in unsafe conditions. I don't understand how anyone can read this stuff, hear about these reports, and say, this is perfectly fine. They brought this on themselves. What are you talking about? Are we really to believe? And by the way, this isn't even going into some of the forced labor that, because you have the prison system just frothing at the mouth to get slave labor out of these people. Do you think that we should be doing this to American prisoners? Do you think that just going to jail in this country should warrant starvation, being denied medical treatment, being used as slavery? Because if you're going to say that this is fine to do to migrants, what's the justification to you to not do this to our own prisoners? And if you recognize that our own prisoners, just because they broke some law or they got a prison sentence, they don't deserve inhumane treatment as part of their prison sentence. I thought we all agreed that countries that allow SA to be part of somebody's prison sentence, I thought y'all said that that's inhumane, that's unethical. Y'all complain all the time that that would be Sharia, that our country under Sharia would have, involve human abuses and atrocities and everything else. Meanwhile, you are justifying human abuses and atrocities going on right now. If this would be unacceptable to do to our own prisoners, then this is unacceptable to do to migrants, especially many of these people are innocent people. A lot of them have legal claim for asylum. They're not criminals. We already covered. That's why I told you this was going to layer on. We already covered in that other story that up to 87% of people don't have any criminal conviction. They have no criminal history that are being rounded up. We've seen 5-year-olds get picked up by these people. And just yesterday, reports came out of a child that had her medical care neglected, and she ended up dying. Shane says, people like this, I find myself wondering if when they learned about Japanese or Jewish concentration camps or American slavery, did they think it was bad and did not and think this is different, or did not see an issue but kept quiet out of social self-preservation? We touched on that as part of the earlier part in the stream. We touched on the Confederacy and the history of slavery and abuses in this country that's kind of continued on, and the fact that that we failed in doing whenever we were doing reclamation. We just failed utterly. It was a Reconstruction period in America. You can look up Reconstruction after the Civil War. You'll see exactly what I mean. We failed to address this. We left too many of those white supremacists in their exact positions of power because people were tired of fighting after the Civil War. It should not have happened. We should have gone further and actually made sure to root out that hateful ideology. In the same way of Nazi Germany after the war, we did not do enough to help Germany deprogram the Nazi ideology out of it. And now we're seeing a resurgence in the the ADF. Do y'all have anything that you want to add about this story? Because I know that both of y'all have talked to me in private that you suspected abuses like this were going on. And this just confirms exactly what we were already speculating, that, of course, there's atrocious abuse, medical neglect, SA, and murder clearly going on in these camps. There is no other way that I would think to accurately describe this. This is not prison. This is a concentration camp. They are torturing people. They are murdering them. What do y'all think?
Well, I mean, we already knew that some of the stuff happens in our current jail system. We have sexual assaults. We have people getting killed in already in our current prison system, and then they try to cover it up. So people um, that aren't considered United States citizens, they do not have well, or at least for this administration, they don't have rights under the Constitution. So they will do whatever they want to them. Like so there's gonna be it's gonna be even worse, like 10 to 30 times worse for them because they don't care. Like they're like, oh, this is we can do what we want because we don't. There's what are the repercussions?
Right, and we can measure that effect by comparing cops to ICE. Like, in a way, like literally, like you can see the effect, like in just how like ICE treats people compared to how cops treat people. Cops do horrible fucking things, but like ICE, literally, they they're masked bandits that like abduct people and just murder them. Like
Right.
they're comically evil. Like they're they're so over the top they make police look like weirdly better for how evil police are.
Yeah. Police, at least ostensibly, are enforcing the law and essentially targeting people for breaking the law. ICE is going way further than I would say the police typically go to, because ICE are not enforcing any laws. They're just snatching people up because they are brown enough, and then denying them habeas corpus and abusing them and sending them to torture camps. Although a cab at the end of the day, because we've remember what happened with Derek Chauvin, uh, and his you know the murder of like Michael Brown, Castile, Trayvon Martin. Like, there's been so many people that have been killed by police, and in the Trayvon Martin case, like a wannabe police. Like, they have continuously been abusing this community, continuously murdering people. And I remember, we got massive protests with Chauvin and George Floyd. But at the end of the day, police abuse has still been going on of this community, and like that is something that you'd have to either like reform. I know that people don't like the abolish the police slogan because they don't really understand what that's getting at. But I don't. You cannot reform ICE. ICE needs to be actually dismantled and abolished. Like, the organization needs to be done away with, and all these people that have done these abuses, they need to be prosecuted. And that's saying following the law. And just to touch on what was mentioned, I know you said like asylum seekers don't have constitutional rights. They do still have rights under the Geneva Convention and international law. I just want to touch on that. It is still illegal to torture them, round them up, and do whatever to them. Like, if you follow international law.
Yeah, which that this administration does not give two shits about. I mean, with what we've been doing in Venezuela, like what are we doing in international waters in Venezuela? We're
Right, in
still
the
doing the same
Caribbean.
shit. Yeah, we're literally murdering people. We are killing people, and you already heard. I mean, literally Trump. Trump is trying to get out of NATO. He's trying to find a way where he can like pull out of NATO. Even though from what I remember, he's not able to do so, like, unless NATO, like, tries to dissolve itself. Like, he cannot leave. Like, the United States cannot leave NATO on their own.
Right. And just to answer Shane real quick, as far as I know, once you're within the United States borders, the Constitution does apply to you. Like, you'd still have habeas corpus. So I was saying, like, even if you wanted to go with an argument and say that they don't have constitutional protection, they would still be protected under the Geneva Convention and international law. Like, that's a worldwide type of thing. At least if you are in like Western countries that ostensibly are supposed to agree to it. But like Lilith was saying, I 100% agree with you, because he's friends with Putin. That's why he wants to leave NATO, because if he ends up, we have certain obligations to mutual defense as long as we're within NATO and we actually honor, our NATO agreement. He wants to get out of NATO because he feels like we're spending all this money and the US is giving all these resources and we're not really getting anything back. It's not mutually beneficial. And in addition to that, he and Putin, have, I guarantee you, because he says that they talk on the phone and stuff like that. And we know that there was the leak saying that, Putin would basically green light and propagandize for the US seizing Venezuela if we gave Russia Ukraine. And if you notice, Russia started using a lot of the exact same language when it came to Ukraine. They're saying we need Ukraine for national defense and everything else, in the same language that Trump was using about Greenland. So like, there's definitely communication going on. They're definitely glad handing a little bit there. But to get to some of the videos that I was talking about earlier, and again, I apologize, this is going to be probably hard to watch, but we need to look at it. This is footage from the Dili concentration center. This is women and children chanting, "Let us out." And for anybody that says that this isn't a concentration camp, what are you talking about? And they're chanting, "Let us out." That's the short clip. We're going to watch another clip.
In protest yesterday behind the walls of a detention facility in Texas. It's the same facility where 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father were sent after they were taken from Minnesota last week. One protester told the Associated Press in a phone interview, quote, "The message we want to send is for them to treat us with dignity and according to the law. We're immigrants with children, not criminals." Immigration attorney Eric Lee was at this detention center trying to visit his clients when this demonstration erupted. We've reached out to DHS for comment about this protest and allegations that it was sparked because of the treatment of Liam, but they have not yet returned our request for comment. Here are 2 videos taken by Lee outside the facility where you can hear the protests taking place inside.
They're shouting, "Let us out, let us out." There's people in blue shirts. Again, there's drones flying up ahead.
What do you think is happening?
I'm outside. I'm outside. It doesn't say out here.
Joining us now is immigration attorney Eric Lee, who you just...
What are y'all's initial reactions? Because to me, that is just horrific. I don't know how you hear that or see that. And by the way, like I said, if you go on to these videos and you look underneath them at some of the comments right there, like, look at some of the inhumane stuff that these people are saying, right? That's conservatives saying this right there. I cannot, I can't fathom this. What are y'all's initial reactions to that?
You were playing a video on stream, right?
Yeah.
I don't have the stream up. I have the stream up but muted so I don't get over talking. Was that were you doing the clip where like you hear people chanting from the people that were being held at the detention centers?
Yeah, and then all the people screaming after that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awful. Like I watched it on TikTok. I think it was yesterday. It was just like it's just chilling like hearing that stuff. It's really bad.
And don't worry, conservatives will tell you that's not a concentration camp. That everything going on there is like on the up and up. It's unbelievable.
Just saw in his video. Eric, can you walk us through what happened yesterday and what you witnessed and heard at this facility?
Sure. I was visiting a family that I represent that includes two 5-year-olds, a 9-year-old, a 16-year-old, and an 18-year-old who have been detained at Dilley for 8 months. That is a record. You're supposed to let kids out after 20 days. They've been there for 8 months. The conditions they have described are abysmal. They are shocking. And when I was sitting in the waiting room waiting to visit with them, suddenly guards said, "Get out, get out." Their faces looked ashen. I didn't know what was happening. I walked out, and then I heard the children shouting from the parking lot. It sounded like hundreds of them. And again, those are children's voices. So to every American who's watching these demonstrations, watching what this administration is doing, the effective attempt to establish a dictatorship in this country, if the kids who are in detention are risking their lives, then what are you doing to stand up and fight for democracy in this country today?
Eric, do you have...
And if y'all want to follow him, he's at Eric Lee Addy, ATTY. If you want to follow him on Twitter, he's posted a lot of different videos on this specifically, and that's one of them. Here are letters that were that some of these children drew. So I just want to show you this one. Sorry. A 5-year-old girl drew that. Nine-year-old girl drew that. And they want to say that if you're anti-ICE, then you're a terrorist. You're a domestic terrorist for being opposed to that. Like, to hell with them. Fuck them. Are you serious? Like, who's going to look at that and think like that is a normal thing to put children through? 8 months, like locked in a cage, being starved, denied medical treatment, being abused. And they're going to put you on a list if you oppose ICE's treatment. Well, that's why, like, I don't care. Like, at the end of the day, you know, if this is, if we have to be silent about this sort of thing, then, you know, we're no better than the people that failed in Reconstruction. We're no better than the people in Germany. And they say, what happened in the 30s? Where were the people speaking out about this? Where were the people condemning this? And a lot of them were probably too afraid to say anything because everyone they know seemed to be going along with this. I show you the videos and I show you those pictures, even though very clearly, I apologize for getting emotional, but like, we should not sit back in silence and don't let them make you afraid. They're going to put us on a list. Yeah, get fucked. That's what I have to say. I'm not scared of your stupid list. So, we'll touch on something a little bit better. Do y'all have anything that you want to add to that before we move on?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking what they're doing. Um, and we've got people protesting, but I mean, there's only so much that protests are going to do. Um, I feel like what's going to end up happening is like the only way that we're going to be able to do is if we have good elections, if we have are able to hold elections like this next like during the midterms. That's what we got going. Or like we've talked about in the past, we need to start having actual like uh what do you call it? People sitting out from work, like actually like stopping
Yeah, mass
the
general strike.
yeah, stopping people from actually going to work, like just people just sitting out of work, not allowing, because that's really who is a lot of the power structure right now is, the economy. If you hit people in their pocketbook, it makes a big difference. Corporations will very quickly start telling their lobbyists they need to change something if it starts hitting their bottom line.
I'm going to step away real quick. I agree with what you're saying as far as like a general strike. Like, we definitely need to do that. I'm going to step away for a second and go compose myself. If you would vamp for a second, I'll just leave the picture on the screen if you want to look at it and talk about your reaction to it. Otherwise, I'll be gone for just a couple of minutes, but we are going to continue this segment. I apologize for having to step away, but there's a lot more to get to, and we're going to start talking about like some of the repercussions from this stuff. I will be right back.
It's just frustrating. I mean, it really, really is frustrating. People feel like there's not really a whole lot that we can do in the meantime. And I mean, there's ways that you can do your own, do your part. If you're not able to protest, you can contacting your representatives is very important, especially if you're in a state where it makes a difference. Like if you're in a blue state, you already know you need to make sure that your people know what where you're going to be voting, who your vote's going to go for, if they aren't doing all that they can in government to try and dissuade this. Like then they have a vote to uh continue funding ICE, and we did have like what was it, 8 Democrats say yes to keep funding ICE.
Um, I think so.
All right, were y'all vamping? Did you get a good job entertaining everyone?
A little bit. I gotta look at what Shane posted. That sounds like a good idea. Like check out your local chapter of the DSA and the Jesus.
Yeah, the GSUS. Yeah, it's
Yeah, Jesus.
organizing general strikes, and DSA is the Socialist Association.
Yeah,
All
we
right,
we need more Mamdanis. We need more Mamdanis.
I
The
you know
problem is, yeah.
I would agree. I'm a little pissed off though because Mamdani said that he was going to disperse this like um agency that was responsible like cracking down and arresting people and stuff in New York when he got in office, and it turns out that that same group cracked down on some protesters that were anti-ICE protesters and arrested some people. So Mamdani did not follow through with his promise because he said back on like December 19th that like he would disband it as soon as he got in office. He's not disbanded it, and they have been dispatched against protesters in New York now. So I don't know what's going on with Mamdani.
Yeah, that sucks.
All right, let's look at Bavino. So if y'all are familiar with Bavino, he was essentially the like head of ICE. He was like the face of ICE. And he's got himself in some hot water. He has been demoted recently. But let's look at a little bit of controversy that happened in his past. Remember what we touched on before with the Confederacy and all this other stuff, right? So I'm just going to touch on certain like takeaways from this article. But it says, after disastrous tenure in Minneapolis and failing attempts to assail murdered victims of his occupying force that only made the situation worse, Customs and Border Protection Commander-at-Large Gregory Bonvino is now being ordered home with his tail between his legs. Thanks to a classic Trump reversal in the face of widespread public outcry at CBP and ICE operations in the city, Border SAR Tom Homan will take Bovino's place. Bovino himself may retire soon, according to The Atlantic. Even his social media accounts have been taken away by the Trump administration. So, Bovino was a Border Patrol officer for 30 years, and he previously served as a chief in the backwater sector of El Centro, California. But after taking a high-profile role as a tactical commander for a mass raid in Los Angeles last June, he has become a walking avatar for Trump's immigration blitzes in Chicago and Minneapolis. Bovino has cultivated the image of shock troop general storming through urban centers with a 4-man deep escort cloaked in a suspiciously German trench coat. Until this week, Trump administration officials had further raised Bovino's profile with claims that he is the target of cartel assassination attempts, a fabrication that disintegrated in federal court last week. So he also has a striking number of similarities to Colonel Stephen Lockjaw, the fictional villain of the Oscar-nominated Paul Thomas Anderson film One Battle After Another. But let's just continue through here. So in the film, Colonel Lockjaw, who is played by Sean Penn, is promoted in rank and receives the Bedford Forrest Medal of Honor after a successful operation. The medal is named after Nathan Bedford Forrest, a slave trader turned Confederate general who would go on to hold the title of the first Grand Wizard of the KKK. So Nathan Bedford Forrest was one of the founding. Remember I said all this was going to tie back in to what we talked about at the Confederacy at the beginning of the stream? So Bovino was himself embroiled in a discrimination suit that was ultimately settled by the Department of Homeland Security in 2022 for an undisclosed sum. The origin of the discrimination suit was Bovino's alleged efforts to manipulate the CBP hiring process to bar the hiring of qualified Black and Latino agents into senior supervisory roles. Once again, white supremacy, and this is before he was even the head of Border Patrol. So according to allegations in the lawsuit brought by John Joyner and eventually followed by other CBP employees seeking remedy for discrimination, Bonvino canceled a job posting and then surreptitiously hired a white supervisor into the role over a number of other qualified applicants. Court records show that during the hiring process, the man Bovino selected for the senior role, Christopher Bullock, wrote that Bovino was like a Confederate general set to liberate a fort from Black Union soldiers. This is what he sent in an email to Bovino. That is a Confederate propaganda. So when Bovino received the email, he immediately responded, "Oh geez, delete," but did not reprimand Bullock for sending the racially charged email or inquire why he had sent it. During a deposition, Bullock testified that he sent the email to Bovino because Bovino was a history buff who would think the email was funny. Mr. Bullock admitted that the emails are inappropriate and agreed that someone could look at the email and find it to be racially charged. And of course, Bovino charged it, said it was like worthless. And this, right? We're back to locker room talk, right? We're back to it's just memes. This is somebody part of the government that was sending Bovino images of Confederate generals and people proudly holding like Confederate soldiers holding a fucking Confederate flag. This is why I said Reconstruction utterly failed. The lost cause myth is still causing problems in our country. This is still tied to white supremacy. And you can say at the end of the day that, the left always wants to talk about white supremacy. Everything has to do with white supremacy. A lot of it does come back to white supremacy. All right, where we see what is essentially an ethnic purification is what Trump's administration is largely trying to do right now. Round up as many black and brown people as we can, throw them inside of camps, torture them, force them to deport themselves, or scatter their family across the country so that you're pulling people from the east side of the country and then dropping them off thousands of miles away, or deporting them unlawfully to other countries where their lives might be in danger. This has been a through line in this administration. I remember when people were getting upset with the OK sign and talking about it's a symbol of white power. You see that Nick Fuentes and his grapers are trying, they'll constantly try and shroud everything, and it's just jokes. We're just playing around. At the end of the day, even if you want to be one of these people to say, oh, that it was just memes in an email, he closed the position in order to not give interviews or hire qualified black people, and then hired the white person, promoted that person up, who sent him those memes. This isn't a thing of like, it looks like this. This is it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck. Don't tell me it's not a duck. We can see exactly what's going on here. And there's not enough excuses of it's memes and jokes to cover this up. And until conservatives start taking this stuff serious, there's going to continue to be lawsuits. Like, he was sued by this, and those people got paid for that. But at the end of the day, they still still did not get a promotion. And it was because of the color of their skin. So don't say that racism is like an artifact of the past. This is something still impacting people. And this is Bavino, who was Trump's head person. But Trump's Bavino, his little chief Nazi, had a rude awakening, as this is what protesters did outside of his hotel the last night that he was staying there before he was being sent back to El Centro.
Protesters taunted Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino outside his hotel as news broke that he has been booted out of Minneapolis
Isn't
by
it
order
just
of
tragic?
President Trump. They were trying to make his last night in Minneapolis a sleepless one. This is how one hotel guest, believed to be an ICE agent, responded. He mooned the crowd. Minneapolis police formed a cordon to force the protesters back.
I was trying to figure out why my mic wasn't working.
Published reports
no.
say
Yes, I
that
wasn't on
Bavino
screen.
has
I was
been
like, why is it
demoted
not
in order
working?
to
Okay.
return to his home base in California,
Sorry.
and that's not
Yeah,
all.
or
Homeland
do we still have equal opportunity employment, or did they take that away along with DEI hires?
I mean, theoretically, it should still be there, but they were attacking the equal opportunity employment as part of this DEI thing. They just labeled anything that would allow black people to succeed at their job or get promoted. Anything like that, they just label DEI and are trying to hack it.
Yeah. And it's already hard trying to prove discrimination in legitimate discrimination cases. For the most part, when you have a discrimination case, unless some dummy put in an email, the reason why you weren't hired was because of something that was, that's a suable offense, it's really hard to win those.
Yeah, you mean unless somebody directly sent email pictures of a Confederate general, and then people holding up a Confederate flag and stuff like that. If they did something like that, then you have a legitimate case for discrimination. But yeah, if this Bullock guy, imagine it, he just didn't send those emails, and he just got hired. How are you going to prove that you did or did not get hired for something?
Yeah,
And
it's very difficult.
Yeah, I had a boss years ago, and this is like the whole thing where they're like, "Oh, well, they'll believe you immediately if it's like, oh, because you're white, you got discriminated against, right?" Like I can tell you, I worked at a job and I had applied for a promotion a few times, and I got denied and stuff. And whenever I turned my 2 weeks notice, some years later, and I went to like leave the company, my boss at the time told me that the reason why I was not given a promotion was because I was white. And like, you can now, if I tell that story, are these conservatives going to be, oh, that absolutely true, that happens because that goes with our narrative. Like that's true discrimination. But I have no email chains. I have nothing in writing. All I have is a conversation that they said to me, like, an offhanded comment as I'm like about to be on my way out of the building. So at the end of the day, can I prove that they discriminate? No, I know what they said to me, but I can't prove that. And at the end of the day, this is something that people of color deal with all the time. They just get passed over for promotions. And, when you don't get a promotion, even though you've applied for like a few different positions and you feel like, hey, I'm as qualified as every other candidate, you don't really know why necessarily you didn't get promoted. Unless, like you said, they actually tell you, like somebody like in the interview process says like, we're not going to hire you because you're a woman, or we're not going to hire you because you're pregnant or something like that. Especially if it's like on a recorded call, then you actually have a case.
Security Secretary Kristi
Yeah,
Noem,
exactly.
aka Ice Barbie, is also
They call her Ice
reportedly on the
Barbie.
outs with President Trump. This after a 2-hour sit-down last night in the Oval Office. Trump is said to be unhappy that Noem said slain Alex Preddy was out to kill law enforcement, a depiction that doesn't match videos shot by bystanders.
Very, very unfortunate incident.
But yeah,
Okay.
it's very frustrating.
Yeah. So, we're about to touch on Kristi Noem, and just so that y'all know, was that a hypothetical? Did that really happen to you, Zoe? No, that really happened. Like I'm being honest and telling you that, but I'm saying that, I think it would, I think it would be very elucidating to see like who would believe me when I say that, black people often face discrimination and they're often, passed over for promotions because of like this like white supremacy that permeates our culture. Are they skeptical of that, but yet they would just believe me at my word when I tell that story that really happened? I could give names and stuff. I could name the company and everything else, but there's no point. I have no evidence other than, this person came to me and specifically said this to me, like on my way out, because, they obviously had some issue with me because of my perceived race. I can't help that, but that doesn't mean that like I'm systemically oppressed. You get what I'm saying? Like in society in general, whiteness has like benefited me and has privileged me more than anything else. Like my life has, as difficult as it has been up to this point, for the most part, it has been made easier because I'm white within this culture at this time. I imagine if I was, a black person, my life would have been that much harder. It's just one more obstacle that I would have to have dealt with within this culture, right? I just think that it's very telling that when I say a story like that, conservatives want to latch on to that and say, see, this proves that white people are discriminated against. And I'm not going to say that white people can't ever face some discrimination, but from a systemic level, no, that's not common. I've also been given plenty of promotions at jobs. In fact, most places that I've worked at, I've ended up in management or supervisor roles. Very few jobs did I ever like struggle to get a promotion. It just so happens that at this one company, I had this experience. That is not a normal experience for me. And on the flip side, I bet if I go and I talk to people of color, a lot of them will tell me that, systemically, black people are less likely to be given promotions than white people. That's all my point was there. I was not making that up or lying about that. That did happen. But so with Kristi Noem here, Kristi Noem is in hot water with Trump. And I mean serious hot water. Like we saw Bavino, his head is rolled. Kristi Noem might actually be on the chopping block, believe it or not. And it might seem like a minor thing when you're like, well, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that the murder of Alex Preddy is enough to sorry, I'm still dealing with sickness. That the murder of Alex Preddy is enough to end up removing these people? Yes, it is. And I'm going to point out why. So a lot of people are like, why do you get rid of Bavino? And why is Kristi Noem possibly in so much hot water? Like, why would you say that she might actually get fired over what happened? All right. Look at this video of what Kristi Noem had said, okay? And it's like her accounts do not match what we see on video. This is really crucially important to pay attention to.
Very unfortunate, isn't it?
Because Trump says this.
I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate.
But even staunch supporters like Senator Ted Cruz are expressing.
Okay. So he goes on to say, now Trump says, I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had, 2 fully loaded magazines. First of all, if you are a proud Second Amendment gun carrier, such as myself, then you will know that a lot of times you have some spare magazines. You do. Who's going to carry a gun and only carry like whatever, the magazine that's in the gun? You want to have at least one backup magazine. If you need to use a gun, you don't want to be like, oh, good thing I only brought, 9 bullets. Of course, you're going to have usually a couple of spare mags. That just makes sense. But Trump saying that has been getting him in hot water, even with conservatives, because a lot of conservatives, gun culture is very important to them. They want like unlimited access to firearms. And a lot of conservative states like Texas, they want to say you don't have to have any license to openly carry firearms. And then there's the whole like Kyle Rittenhouse thing, right? He ends up shooting some people at a protest, and then he ends up walking down the road with an AR, and cops just wave him over like, oh, come on over here, and that we're going to talk to you and get you some lawyers and everything else. Okay, that's what happened with Rittenhouse. With Noem's narrative, she's saying that, well, they were justified in murdering Preddy, even though we watched the video, they spray him with pepper spray, shove him to the ground, and then we've seen the rest of it, right? Several ICE officers come over, start beating him. One of the officers, clearly on video, clearly pulls the gun out of his waistband and walks off with it. And then another ICE officer, they shoot him like 10 times after that. So the crime to execute him, according to that administration, was justified because he was legally carrying a concealed weapon. And for Trump to use language like, well, 2 magazines, and Noem spread this idea that he was trying to inflict as mass damage as he could onto ICE officers is ludicrous. So Trump repeated what Noem said. What Noem said was extremely unpopular because all of us can watch those videos and see that Preddy was murdered by ICE, right? And because Noem got, flamed for saying what she did, but Trump repeated what she said, then Noem got flamed. And we're talking about the dog killer herself, Kristi Noem. So we end up in a situation where Trump is now finding, like, he's seeing how unpopular his response has been. And even conservatives like Ted Cruz are now speaking out against the way that Trump had said this, the things that he's done since then. And this will get a little bit more interesting as we go, just a little bit, because of who else might actually get fired for this.
Senator Ted Cruz are expressing concern.
They come out guns blazing.
I mean, he's got to
that we
spread
took
it around.
out a violent
It can't
terrorist.
be him. Oh,
Correct.
why'd you
The First
make
Lady
me say
stepped-
that?
Right. But you heard what Cruz said there, that the moment this news came out, they go out guns blazing, spreading this narrative. Remember we saw that before with Kash Patel and the FBI. when in the Charlie Kirk shooting. They just immediately started trying to spread a narrative. So we end up seeing they rushed to another narrative and got themselves in a lot of trouble. There's a little bit more to this video, but people are talking about, I'm going to skip Melania. I don't give a fuck what Melania has to say. But let's go a little bit more. Here's Megyn Kelly's response to it.
But Megyn Kelly says Preddy, a VA hospital nurse, also made mistakes.
My mom spent her life as a VA nurse. Never in her wildest dreams would she consider going out there to impede law enforcement.
Sarah Meisner is the daughter of one of Alex Preddy's ICU patients. She is speaking out on his behalf.
He was a wonderful person. He was there to help. And that I can't imagine him being a person who would want to harm anyone.
Stephen Colbert had this take.
This administration has no idea the mistake they just made. They're messing with nurses now.
And the shooting had
Okay,
Jimmy
and yeah,
Kimmel
Jenny Kimmel
choking
gets
back
all
tears.
teary-eyed.
Alex Preddy was an ICU nurse who treated veterans, which is about as patriotic, I think, as it gets.
Okay. So the interesting thing about this is that because of what happened here, unironically, now we have Hill Democrats and even some Republicans plot an exit for Nome. I'm going to just tell you the highlights of this a little bit. So top Democrats in Congress are plunging into an impeachment fight with Kristi Noem, as even some moderate Republicans say they've lost faith in the embattled Department of Homeland Security chief, upping the pressure on the administration over what they see as a complete failure in Minnesota. In a joint statement, the top three House Democrats announced they would soon support a vote to impeach Noem, which they can trigger without any GOP support unless Trump immediately moved to fire her after the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Alex Preddy. So, and two other moderate Republicans, so one from Alaska and one from North Carolina, told reporters they also wanted Noem out. An extraordinary step for House Democrat leaders. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and his team issued a blunt statement threatening impeachment after weeks of trying to steer their members away from such talk, which they saw largely as a distraction given the GOP's fiercely loyalty to the president. I want to go real quick to this video by the Associated Press. This is talking about this exact same thing. And the people that are now saying she should be impeached.
And Republicans have raised concerns about Kristi Noem's leadership. Democratic Party leaders, top advocacy organizations, and even some of the most centrist lawmakers in Congress are calling for the Homeland Security Secretary to step aside after the shooting deaths in Minneapolis of two people who protested deportation policy. It's a defining moment in her tenure at the department, and few Republicans are rising to Noem's defense.
She clearly doesn't know how to manage. She's never managed a large organization, and she's failing at every possible measure of the job.
Some House Democrats said she should be fired or face impeachment proceedings.
She needs to be held accountable for her actions. This is why I introduced 3 articles of impeachment against Secretary Noem.
But President Donald Trump gave no indication Noem's job is in jeopardy.
I think she's... All right. So Trump says there's no indication that her job is in jeopardy. Let's go to the Midas Touch real quick. I'm going to show you Hakeem Jeffries was on Midas Touch, and this is the House Minority Leader now talking about this.
Hear from Greg Abbott saying you need to recalibrate your response for another
absolutely. A statement was just put out by Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries saying that these paramilitary tactics that are being used to terrorize Americans must cease and desist. The violence unleashed on the American people by the Department of Homeland Security must end forthwith. Kristi Noem either needs to be fired immediately or we will commence impeachment proceedings in the House of Representatives. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Let's bring in Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries right now. Leader Jeffries, it is great to see you. People are calling for this. You've heard the American people. Frankly, we want them all impeached at this point, and we want all these people who have been involved in terrorizing the American people prosecuted, because what we're seeing on the streets is absolutely disgusting and so un-American and so it's gross. Talk to us about this call for the impeachment of Kristi Noem.
I'll send her.
Great to be with you. The American people are appropriately dismayed, disturbed, and disgusted by what they're seeing by their own government, taxpayer dollars being used to kill American citizens, brutalize communities, and attack violently law-abiding immigrant families. It all has to end. And there's a variety of things that can be done. But Donald Trump can start by firing Kristi Noem immediately. We know Kristi Noem is a corrupt, despicable, pathological liar. She never should have been confirmed by Republicans in the Senate to begin with. And she's responsible in part for unleashing this kind of carnage that we're seeing in American communities. Federal taxpayer dollars should actually be used to make life better for the American people, to make life more affordable, to protect the health, the safety, and the well-being of everyday Americans, not kill them. So our position is pretty clear. Kristi Noem needs to be fired immediately, or House Democrats, upon our return to Congress next week, will begin the initiation of impeachment proceedings against her.
I want to talk.
Right. And this is what I was talking about before, where we have in this country, like, it's a cacostocracy and a mobocracy at this point. And I know people are like, oh my God, like, y'all call everything fascist. Like, they are fascist, but cacostocracy also really, like, is on point here. When we're talking about the least qualified, least competent citizens are put in charge of government organizations, Kash Patel was a podcaster. It would be like if, if Biden was elected president again, and then he appointed me as the head of the FBI. Like, oh, well, Zoe's got this respectable little podcast that she does. Like, what? And then Noem was she was a politician of like one of the Dakotas. Do y'all remember if Noem, was she like a state representative or a governor or something like that? But she was some, let me look it up just so that, get this information right. Kristi Noem was, I think she was in South Dakota. Do y'all remember? Am I on my own out here?
I don't remember where she's from. She's from some Midwest, right?
No, she served as the governor of South Dakota. I was right. I just wanted to fact check that in real time,
Yeah. Is that?
I have no idea.
Is it South Dakota like Midwest?
I don't know if South Dakota is concerned. Is it the Midwest? I don't know. I think it's more like it's getting toward central U.S.
Right.
But this is not a this is serious. Like they are seriously wanting to impeach her over this, and I don't blame them, because Trump is looking at people to blame, and we already saw that he's gotten rid of Bavino, but Kristi Noem is also equally responsible for this. And the interesting thing is that where do you think Kristi Noem got the information from? Where do you think who told her to say that Alex Preddy clearly went out there with a gun to cause maximum damage? Turns out that the blame game has erupted over Trump's team about the false claim that Alex Preddy saw a massacre. The interesting thing is, I just want to touch on this Axios article real quick. From insiders, they are saying that Stephen Miller is the one that told Kristi Noem what to say, because even though her position as the security secretary is higher than Stephen Miller's, Stephen Miller calls the shots and tells her what to say. And there's also been reporting that there has been serious fallout between Miller and Trump over this, including that Trump has had several of his cabinet members called in for for advice on what to do with the situation. And Stephen Miller has been specifically left out. Miller was a close advisor to Trump during his first term, and Miller has now been like one of his staunchest, closest allies. And a lot of people have referred to Stephen Miller as like the shadow president who's like puppeting Trump. But Trump has now been icing Miller out of meetings, and like rumor is legitimately pissed off at Miller over this. And what people are saying is Miller first got the information about Preddy, and when he found out that there was a gun involved, he did not bother to look at the video or wait to find out what happened. He told Nome to go out there and say that Preddy intended to harm officers with that firearm, despite it never being drawn and it being disarmed off of him before he was killed. That is massive disinformation, and everyone that has watched that video of Preddy and has seen those videos knows what happened. And there's a woman filming in the Preddy video. You can see her kind of standing off in the background, wearing I think it was like a puffy white jacket, filming, and she has told the media that the government has never contacted her whatsoever to get that video from her as part of any investigation. And we know that DHS is saying that they are going to investigate themselves, and they will let us know if they did anything bad. You might as well have the IDF investigating the IDF at that point. What do y'all think?
Yeah, nothing's gonna come of it. You can't. You always have to have somebody else in charge of independent, independent investigations, and they don't have any of that stuff. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Oversight.
Right. There needs to be something. I mean, even the police have, IA, but there is no such thing as far as I can tell for ICE. It's what ICE has, what the DOJ, and the DOJ and ICE are extensions of the executive branch.
Yeah, DHS.
Had the oversight, they'd go to jail.
Yeah. Hannah said, we investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, if you were wondering, all this stuff with ICE, Preddy's murder, Good's murder, all this chaos going on in Minneapolis, everything that they are fucking up. If you were wondering, what has this done for Trump? We can see right here Trump's approval. So this is going over. The president's net approval rating is now negative 18%. All right, so it's down 0.1 since last week. 38% approve, 56% disapprove, and 5% are not sure. I'm sorry, but that 38% is like, we know that he's got like a cult. Like there's a cult following him. That's roughly 25% of this country. Let's look at some of his numbers, though. We can look at Biden, and Biden's net disapproval was at -7 when he left office.
Which is so bad, because I'm telling you, Biden is like, Biden was like just a warm body.
Right.
And for president, he was like the most milquetoast. Like, it was like, oh, we don't have anybody else, so we're sticking Biden in.
Right. At this time of Trump's first term, he was at -12%. And look at his second term, -18% already. So a year ago, when Donald Trump was running office, The Economist predicted that this term would be more disruptive than his first. That turned out to be an understatement. Trump has lobbed grenades at the global order that America helped build after the Second World Order, blowing up the rules-based trade system and maiming alliances. At home, the president and his allies have smashed norms as they battle his perceived enemies in Congress, the bureaucracy, the courts, universities, newsrooms, and on the streets. Americans do not seem happy. At the beginning of Trump's second term, his net approval rating was 2. It has now fallen to -18. A week into Trump's term, 37% of Americans thought the country was headed in the right direction, while 50% thought it was on the right track. Those numbers are now 31% think it's headed in the right direction, and 60% think that it is on the wrong track. Check out just some of this stuff. Let's just look at by issue. What is Trump's net approval rating? Okay. National security. We're looking at like December 2025, right? It's a solid like balance out. But look at like immigration, jobs, all of this. We're talking like into like -10 on immigration. Jobs and the economy, he's near -20. On taxes and spending, over -20. And on inflation prices, he's at almost -30 when we're talking about what his approval is. This should really worry Republicans, because if you notice what this map is, it is approve or disapprove. And I know for a second that you might be like, well, wait a minute, this map looks good for Republicans because it's red. But let's look at the scale, right? The red does not mean Republican. The red on this map, and that's a map of all of our states, the more red an area is, the more they disapprove of Trump. The more gray, like light gray to black, the more they approve of Trump. And you can see what states, like even Georgia, look at Georgia, Florida, he's at -7.5 in Florida, -18.6 in Georgia, -17.2 in Texas. Hawaii, -30, Alaska, which is also a conservative state, -6. Go ahead, Morgan.
I was looking at Texas and Florida as well. I know you already mentioned Texas, but
Yeah,
I was
we
thinking
can
it right as you said it.
we can go through and just look at some of the swing states, right? Florida was a swing state, now -7. Georgia, -18. Arizona, -16. New Mexico, -36. Colorado, we've got -27. Michigan, -15. Wisconsin, -17. Right? This really matters. We are getting close. I know, I love... Maybe it's just the autism in me. I love like graphs and everything. But we have this going like toward the midterms. We are less than a year from the midterms. And this does not like the what he's doing with ICE is incredibly unpopular, but I need y'all to like really pay attention to this. He is not pulling ICE back. I said in my last stream that he said that he had called Walls and that he was talking to Walls and that he is sending in Hoffman and he's getting rid of Bavino. So it seemed like Trump might be softening his stance on ICE in Minneapolis. We have reports now that he is intending to do an ICE surge in Minneapolis. So he's trying to do like a fake, it's like a psych out. He's trying to make the news seem like, well, everything is going to get better because he's being reasonable and removing Bavino and stuff like that. He's actually trying to order more ICE in, and ICE is still carrying out, their attacks on citizens in Minneapolis. If this continues and they get more and more unpopular, I can't even imagine what this map is going to look like by the time that we get to the midterms. And if we have free, fair, and open elections, many Republicans are genuinely frightened right now about what's going to happen to them in the midterms. And as things are going right now, I think rightly so, because as many of you know, especially if you watch my streams, approval rating does not often slide back the other direction for politicians, especially those that are as unpopular as Trump, and then those that end up being kind of like caught up and seen as like his yes men. Ted Cruz, this would be bad news for Ted Cruz. -17 in Texas. And we can just look down at his net approval rating by demographics. The reason I want to bring this up is because a lot of people say, oh, but Trump, I hear people call into talk shows and, they'll say, oh, like I'm a black person and I voted for Trump and Trump is more popular with black people than you realize, or he's more popular with Hispanic people. He has since nuked any gains that he made with minority communities. And you can see right here, if we go by race, he is at near -30 with Hispanic population right now. He is damn near -70 with the black population right now.
I wonder
That is
why.
right. I wonder what he could have possibly have done to make these minority communities, like, you know, to get such backlash against them and for them to like run the hell away from him. And you can see over here, still, the more educated that people go, the more that they do not support Trump. The sad thing is that when you look at white voters on average, like just aggregate polls, he's only a little disapproved with white people, but he's still negative overall with white people. That is a big thing. The white male voter, that was his strongest demographic, is solidly around a 5% disapproval. White women, if we're looking, we end up having, you know, you're at more than 20. We can look at issues that are facing America. What are the important issues? And this is once again, Republicans focus on trans people all the time. Trans stuff, right? What do you not see on this, any of these charts? You see civil rights. So this is the 5th most important thing is civil rights. And the 6th most important thing is civil rights. But look at Republicans. The Republican line for this is that bottom line down there. And that's Republicans. You can see roughly 1% of Republicans think that civil rights is an important issue. Civil liberties, Republicans think 1% that that's an important issue. The important issues for Republicans, you can clearly read the data right here. Inflation and prices, 25%. All right. Number 1 issue for Republicans. Number 2 issue for Republicans is jobs and the economy. Number 3, healthcare. Number 4, taxes, government spending. And it's only 5 and 6, civil rights. Then if you look down here, at 7 is where you finally get to immigration. And only 11% of Republicans think that it's their major issue. So the idea, and national security is number 9. If we're talking like the top 10 issues. And Trump's big thing that he's running on was immigration and national security. And those are 7 and 9 respectively. And Trump is going around, I don't know if y'all have seen this, but Trump is going around claiming that he lowered prices and that there is not an affordability crisis going on in our country right now. I feel like if you are a working class person in this country, you know that that is not true. Groceries are more expensive now than they were when Trump got into office. Houses cost more. The housing market is absolute garbage right now. I don't understand how any Republican would look at the actual data here and say that like trans people are an important thing we need to focus on, or that ICE is doing something important. How? It's not even an important issue among them. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lilith.
No, I was just saying, you think that the vast majority of Republicans are looking at data? Do you honestly think?
No, I know they're not. But I'm trying.
You mean facts and figures over like listening to a talking head?
Yeah, they have their alternative facts. I am bringing this up because this is a common talking point among conservative circles. It is very common for them to make claims that trans people are a very important issue. That's why they spend so much time fear-mongering. If you remember the last election cycle, a lot of the conservatives that focused their campaign heavily on anti-trans ads, not only were they unsuccessful, they outspent their opponent several times over, specifically focusing on trans issues, and they ended up losing anyway in a lot of those special elections. And when we say, well, why is that? You can see right here from this data, it's because the vast majority of Americans don't care about trans issues. They don't actually think that, there's a serious issue for us. Now, if you look at what Democrats think on their civil rights, yeah, like 15% of Democrats say civil rights is an issue, and 12% roughly say that civil liberties are an issue. And that's up from 1% of Republicans. So if you're looking at just statistically, like what party actually cares about like rights at all, it's the Democratic Party. I might not support them. I might not be a Democrat, but I'm going to support them over Republicans. You know, Democrats don't go near far enough in any of the stuff they want to do. And as you were talking earlier, I saw in the chat with the Overton window, Hannah says, you know, lunch is over, so you got to head out. It was nice being able to tune in for a moment. Yeah, thanks. It was nice having you with us as well, Hannah. I hope you have a good rest of your shift. But when you look at the numbers, the numbers there just do not lie at all. And at the end of the day, they can, if they keep trying to run on anti-trans stuff, they're just going to continue to lose elections. And if I end up clipping the stream, if I clip that segment, feel free to send that to Republicans that you're debating or arguing with. Because at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is Republicans lose elections by focusing so much on trans issues. The majority of Americans, even the majority of conservatives, do not care about trans issues. It just does not poll well at all. And then when you look at like ICE and immigration, that's also a losing issue for them. And if you are a conservative, it's a losing issue for you. Clearly, the thing that people care about is taxes and the economy, which Trump
they
is.
Care about their pocketbook.
Right, because they're, you know, greedy, selfish people. But Trump is, at the end of the day, going to shoot himself in the foot on this by playing this rhetoric of trying to say, oh, there's no affordability crisis. Whenever, like, Trump held a rally and they were trying to pass out signs for people to hold up that said something like no affordability or affordability has come down or something like that. And it's like, y'all can bullshit all you want to about, you know, things being affordable. It's clearly not for people living day to day.
Yeah, that's the normal day-to-day thing. I feel like the thing is that if they fix like the majority of the things that people like complain about, which is, you know, healthcare, childcare, affordable housing and food on the table. If you fix those things, a lot of people wouldn't care about all the rest of it because those are like the necessities for like living, the necessities for living. So if they can't, get their base to be excited about going and voting, they just stop voting because there's nothing else that they'd really care about.
Right. I mean, that was also the whole thing of Trump, you know, did not want that border bill passed because he wanted to run specifically on the border, like on immigration issues, because he's trying, you know, his campaign is like based on like fear mongering and everything else. And if he continues to do the international criminal stuff, like there's going to be even more fallout. Like other countries are looking at us like, what the hell is going on over there? And none of the things that Trump is actually focusing on are the things that Americans want. And his trade war and the tariffs are going to make things more expensive. It's only going to get worse. Your cost of living because of Trump is going to continue to go up as long as he continues to have those policies put in place. Now,
yeah,
for the last segment that I want to get into, and I know we've been going for like almost 3 hours. So if y'all have been here with us from the beginning, like thank y'all for showing up and sitting through this with us. But did y'all hear about what happened to Ilhan Omar?
Maybe, I don't know what happened.
All right, well, here's the video. If you can see it, I'm going to play it for you. She was attacked and she got sprayed with some fluid out of a vial that this person had in the audience.
Secretary
Here's the video.
Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
Right there. I don't know if you saw that.
Face impeachment.
Right there, you see
gotta wait
that.
for it to play.
Yeah. There's the fluid that sprays her. I know it's on like a 5-second delay. So you saw that?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like somebody had looked like a water gun?
Nope. I'll play there. I'll let it play. So there he goes right there. He sprays her, then he steps off to the side and he's holding up his hand. He had a syringe that he had hidden up his sleeve. And he basically like got up out of the crowd, walked up, and then sprayed her with the syringe. And it was full of like some brown and yellow liquid. But I'll finish playing the video. She wants to stay and continue doing the town hall.
I don't know. Oh my God, he sprayed something on her. I need a napkin to know nothing. No, we will continue. No. Ilhan, you need to go get checked. No, we will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get away with it. You need to go get checked. No, I don't know what. Secretary Christie.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, for the record, like, I'm glad that she wanted to stay and fight and to continue talking, but at the same time, the smart thing to do is to go and get checked, because you never know, like, what could have been in that vial. It could have been, you know, like there could have been like an acid in it. It could have, been some kind of like, chemical weapon. Could have been a chemical agent. Like people, I remember, I'm old enough to remember people like mailing anthrax and that sort of stuff. So like, you don't know what somebody could have mixed in that vial, especially they just spray you with a liquid. Like, even if you think it's probably water, you should probably go get checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have the suspect arrested. So he has a criminal history and he made pro-Trump posts. So remember the whole thing of them saying that the left is violent and that, it's us that are violent. So the man accused of squirting unknown substance on Ilhan Omar, a town hall in Minneapolis, has a criminal history, and he's made online posts supportive of Donald Trump. He's 55. He was convicted of felony auto theft in 89, and he's been arrested multiple times for driving under the influence and has had numerous traffic citations, Minnesota court records show. There are also indications that he has had significant financial problems, including 2 bankruptcy filings. He used a syringe to squirt on Omar during Tuesday's event after she called for the abolishment of ICE. The firing or impeachment of Kristi Noem following the fatal shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Officers immediately tackled and arrested Anthony, who was jailed on a preliminary third-degree assault charge, the police said. Photos of the syringe, which fell when the man was tackled, show what appeared to be a light brown liquid inside. Authorities haven't publicly identified the substance. After the attack, there was a strong vinegar-like smell in the room. According to an Associated Press journal that was there, forensic scientists were called in, but none of the roughly 100 people there had a noticeable physical reaction to the substance. Omar continued speaking for about 25 minutes after Anthony was ushered out, saying she wouldn't be intimidated. While leaving, she said that she felt a little flustered, but wasn't hurt and that she was going to be screened by a medical team. She later posted on X that she's okay. She's a survivor, so the small agitator isn't going to intimidate me from the work that I do. I don't let the bullies win. And they're just going on to talk about how this guy is a Trump supporter. Now, let's look at some of the stuff that he said. All right. He called Democrats as angry and liars. He said that Trump says that he wants a stronger U.S. that is more prosperous. Anthony claimed he wants to stop other countries from stealing from us, bring back the fear that enemies back away from and gain respect. If anyone threatens us or our friends, we will, an expletive them up. In another post, he said, when will descendants of slaves pay restitution to Union soldiers' families for freeing them during or dying for them and not sending them back to Africa? Oh, look, once again, we are back to white supremacy and the Confederacy, still literally referencing Union soldiers freeing like slaves. So I think that, I wanted to wrap that up as like a full circle to come back all the way to what we were talking about at the beginning of talking about the Confederacy. I feel like there's like clearly still issues in this country with white supremacy. We see this guy referencing the Civil War. Reclamation was a process that utterly failed for us, and we are going to continue to have to deal with the fallout of this up until we actually publicly shame these people enough that they either go and get themselves educated on what actually happened and stop spreading this hateful propaganda, or we're going to end up continuing to deal with people attacking our politicians for being people of color that are just speaking out about their opinions. They don't believe in free speech. They want to censor you. And the majority of political violence comes from the right wing, which is why Kash Patel's FBI is taking down all these statistics when it comes to, crimes by race or crimes by political associations. Do y'all have anything you want to add before I wrap the stream up? We've been going for 2 hours and like 45 minutes. I feel like it's been a minute.
Well, not really on this subject. No, I think it was a really good stream. You went through a whole lot of stuff, and I got to learn a few things about stuff, which is really cool. Um, it's really frustrating where we're at right now as a country. We're doing what we can when we can, but it's not enough yet. We just have to keep moving forward and hope that more people become uh, uncomfortable enough to actually call their Congress people and tell them that they need to, figure out what the heck's going on and stop going along with whatever it is that the administration is doing right now, because it's not good for our country. Like, it's not doing the things that they want them to do. It's not fixing the economy. It's not fixing healthcare. It's making your lives worse. It is not making them better.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like all the stuff that they're doing, like, we covered what do they care about the most? They care about the economy. And, Trump's tariffs, Trump's policies, it is not fixing the economy. It is not doing anything for any of these people. Their lives are not going to be better from what Trump is doing. And we will see during the midterms exactly what happens because of all this. Again, if we have free and fair elections, because I genuinely believe that if we had free and fair elections, that we would no longer be dealing with this. Like they would be voted out.
Yeah. And I did want to clear something from earlier. I wasn't saying that we don't have a constitution that covers like visitors and tourists. It's just the fact that the way that the administration is going right now, they can just make you leave. Like, that's what they're doing to people right now, is they're just getting people off of the street and then putting them into literally concentration camps so they can deport them. So
Yeah,
they're doing it without any sort of process. There's no due process for these people. So they can just they're not following our rules. Like, they're not following any of our laws. They're just grabbing people, and then like some of them they were actually sending to the wrong country.
Yeah, I know what you're
Schlepping
saying.
them out. Yeah.
We covered that entire, like, all the stuff building up to when we were talking about ICE there. And like, I knew what you meant, because it's like, well, yes, technically, and this is the whole thing, is that, well, aren't there laws in the books? Yeah, there are laws on the books. Do they ignore the laws and do whatever they want to? Also, yes. ICE notably does not give a fuck about habeas corpus, is not letting people have access to their lawyers. They're not giving them due process. Like, it's obvious that despite the law being there, they don't actually care what the law says. Like, they're going to do whatever they want to do in the same way that ICE is doing whatever they want to do. And I see that Leaf said, as frustrating everything is, you don't regret not voting for Harris. Oh yeah, because you didn't vote for Trump either, Maple Leaf. Yeah, I see you there. No, but thank y'all for being on the stream with me. I think that it was a good stream. I feel like, we had covered a lot of grounds, and hopefully people will get something useful out of this. If you feel like you got any useful information, if you learned anything, if it was entertaining at all, please don't forget to, like the stream, and, share it if you if you feel like other people might gain some useful information from it as well. But thank you, Lilith, for being with us, and thank you, Morgan. Do y'all want to say goodbye?
Thanks for having me. And
Yeah.
goodbye.
Yeah.
Goodbye.